Hi everybody, Jennifer Ashley Tepper here, Creative and Programming Director at Feinstein's 54 Below, as well as producer of shows like Be More Chill, Broadway Bounty Hunter, Love and Hate Nation, theater historian and author of the book series The Untold Stories of Broadway, and creator of things like the Jonathan Larson Project and If It Only Runs a Minute concert series. I am here today to talk about what I do, all my jobs. So the most interesting question to get asked for me is, what does your job entail? Because as you can tell, I do so many different things that on a day-to-day basis, it differs quite a bit. At 54 Below, where I have been the creative and programming director for 7 years, my job consists of programming basically everything that gets onto our stage. So musicals and concert, Broadway stars doing solo concerts, the cast of shows coming to do evenings of their original work, and everything in between. Basically, our venue is incredibly Broadway centric, but after that, it varies a lot. So it is my job to kind of chat with all of the artists, their agents, their publicists, the concert producers, and put together programming that's eclectic and that represents the theater community. My favorite thing to do is that we have 7, 9:30, and 11:30 shows, and oftentimes the 7 p.m. show will be a Broadway legend, someone I grew up listening to on cast recordings. The 9:30 might be a peer, someone I came up with in the industry, or a new musical theater writer, or something that's exciting but not quite finished yet. And the 11:30 show might be really someone that's just getting started out, a college class doing a showcase, or an evening of people coming to do new work. So it is just a really exciting place to be. We have a full service staff who does an incredible job, marketing, production, everything in between. And it's just such a pleasure to work there. I can't wait to get back after the shutdown is over. So that's 54 Below. On a day-to-day basis, I do a number of other things depending on what projects I'm working on. Last year in 2019, I produced Be More Chill on Broadway, which was the culmination of years and years of collaboration with Joe Iconis, who is my favorite musical theater writer, my closest collaborator. We've worked for over a decade on musicals and concerts and all kinds of things. And so Be More Chill was a very interesting and unique journey that perhaps I'll chat about a little later. And as a producer, you know, you're basically the CEO of a company. So as a producer, you collaborate with the other producers to be in charge of everything from hiring to overseeing every department and their decisions, obviously delegating a lot of those decisions to the good sense of the people doing the jobs, and just generally keeping the company running, raising the capital for it, making the decisions about what it's gonna, like what the major decisions are gonna be, where it's gonna play, you know, what the ticket prices are, what the advertising campaign is, who is in the cast. Basically, it's kind of like running a startup. It really is. And Be More Chill was a very unique version of that. And in addition to that, I do a lot of work as a historian. All of this work kind of feeds each other. I like to really think about the fact that without my job at 54 Below, I don't think I would be able to get people like Patti LuPone to say yes to an interview for my book series necessarily. And without my book series, I wouldn't have the clout as a historian, as a journalist in that way, to really create evenings that celebrate theater history the way that so much of our 54 Below programming does. So, so much of what I do feeds each other. This year in particular, in quarantine, I've been working really hard on my 4th volume of The Untold Stories of Broadway. So there have been 3 volumes published. There's going to be 6 volumes total. Each book takes 8 Broadway theaters and takes you through their history, through people's personal stories, who I've interviewed, as well as discoveries I've made on my own. So at this point, I've interviewed about 300 theater professionals, everyone from actors, directors, stagehands, musicians, all kinds of jobs that people do on Broadway. And basically, in each chapter, you learn about theater history through the lens of a specific house. So when I was first starting out, right after I graduated at NYU, I worked on the Broadway musical Title of Show at the Lyceum, where later I returned for Be More Chill. And my time at the Lyceum really inspired me about learning the specific Broadway theater history. You know, when you're doing a show in a theater, who was in the dressing room before you, and what shows played the stage before you, and like what was the physical history in the house, and how does Broadway history get affected by real estate and by the theaters themselves. So that was the jumping off point for this book series that ended up exploring everything in the last, you know, 80 years of theater history. It's always my goal for each chapter to start as far back as possible, so I have been really lucky to interview people who have stories and Broadway credits it's dating back to the 40s. Actually, a lot of people, 13 of the interviewees for the books are no longer with us since I started interviewing in 2013. And so a lot of this volume has been figuring out the best way to maintain legacy and to put forth stories that are hopefully going to be in the world for a long time and really tell people what our era of theater history in the 20th and 21st centuries were like. So that's a bit about the Untold Stories of Broadway. You know, what's interesting is I always wanted to be part of making musicals happen. I didn't know if that would mean commercially producing and working at a not-for-profit, what exactly that would entail. I just knew that I wanted to be part of making new musicals happen, celebrating underappreciated musicals of the past, the collision of theater history and present. So what's fascinating and weird is we all get asked all the time, what's your 5-year plan? What's your dream job? Those kinds of things. And when I was in school, none of the jobs I had existed. You know, 54 Below didn't exist. The exact path that I carved out for myself as a theater historian and producer didn't exist. So I spent the years after college really trying to figure out where I fit and applying for so many jobs that I didn't get. I really wanted to work in a producer's office after I graduated, and I could not have applied for more jobs. And I always tell this to interns or young people that I chat with in the theater. I did not get those jobs. It took 2 years of applying before Ken Davenport, who I ended up working for 3 years, Broadway and off-Broadway producer Ken Davenport, hired me. And he hired me because he saw that I was doing creative marketing and outreach for Blood Song of Love, which was a musical of Joe Iconis's that played Ars Nova, that I was just so excited about and doing all this grassroots work on. And Ken said, I want to hire you to come work for me and do what you're doing on this show, on my shows. So I had actually applied for jobs in his office that I didn't get. The thing that got me that first full-time theater job was really doing my own thing and again, making my own path. At the same time, the 2 years after I graduated were when I started making my own work, creating If It Only Runs a Minute, which is a concert series celebrating underappreciated musicals that I've now done with Kevin Michael Murphy for a decade. And also starting to do a lot of work with new musical theater writers, with concerts, with PAing major productions. Basically, I had like tons of little gigs all over the place and did a lot of survival jobs during those years, which really planted the seeds and gave me the tools that I needed to become a theater professional in all of the ways that I did later on. So the way I got into producing was through all of that. I always tell people who want to get started producing, like producing just means putting on a show. So whether that's a Zoom reading that you coordinate from your apartment, or whether it's you know, a pizza reading where you get together and a friend has a new play and you help them cast it and put together all the pieces and market it and then put it together for 20 people in, you know, in a room, all of that is producing. Producing is also Broadway. Producing is also, you know, major productions. It runs the gamut. So basically just getting started producing is how I did it. Having worked in professional theater for, I guess, including internships, about 14 years, I have been so lucky to have so many experiences with people that I grew up idolizing. You know, such a big part of theater is passing on lessons and aesthetics and, you know, advice about how to put together shows through personal connections, through being in the same room as people. It's something that can never be replaced, that we all miss very much during this time. And one of the people who I have to say, like, always kind of looked out for me during my first years in the business, who I think about a lot, is Lonnie Price. Lonnie was one of the original cast members of my favorite musical of all time, Merrily We Roll Along. And when I was growing up, I was just obsessed with him. I was obsessed with him from that, his work as a director, his work in shows like A Class Act, where he was the lead actor and director. I just thought that he was the bee's knees. I haven't used that phrase in a very long time. Wow. And when I got to New York, he was just someone who was like on my list of like my dream list of who I might meet someday. And I went to see a screening of the company revival that happened at the Gloria Beachman Theater. They screened the filmed version of it that Lonnie directed. And I walked up to him and introduced myself and told him that Merrily We Roll Along was my favorite musical, which I know that he does hear a lot. And I just said, you know, if you ever need a PA, a gopher, someone to like get you coffee, like I would love to do anything to work with you, for you. You know, it's just an honor to meet you. And he actually reached out to me and he let me know that he was making a documentary about Merrily and asked me if I would like to assist him with a little bit of the research. I do not mean to say that I did a ton of work on this, but this was many years ago, and this movie eventually became Best Worst Thing That Ever Happened, this incredible documentary about the show. And I got to help Lonnie with it a little bit. And actually, when Merrily We Roll Along happened at Encores at City Center, the amazing production with Lin-Manuel Miranda, Colin Donnell, Celia Keenan-Bolger, Betsy Wolfe, Elizabeth Stanley, there was a night where the original cast of Merrily actually all attended, and they captured some footage for the documentary at that event, and the cast invited me to come along with them because I had kind of become like I wanted to say a mascot to them over the years. A lot of them, not just Lonnie, but a lot of them had become kind of mentors and friends. And so I had the honor of spending a night with the original cast of Merrily, seeing the revival cast, and going to a party with them before, going to a party with them after, kind of observing all of that. A lot of theater history work, crazy as it sounds, is like going to parties and seeing what happens at the parties, which is very funny. But that is a night that I will never forget. Mana Allen from Merrily Roll Along has become one of my like close friends, my fairy godmother, and Jim Walton, and so many of them over the years I've gotten to know. So just getting put in like a room with those people because I was, ambitious and crazy enough at the age of 20 to approach Lenny Price at the Beachman is something that's one of my coolest experiences. Tied into that also during that time in 2010, because Lonnie knew me from that whole thing, he actually invited me to PA the Sondheim birthday concert that was at Lincoln Center, and that was truly one of the coolest experiences also. It was the concert, you can see it on, it's on video, you can catch it, and the red dress ladies, it's Elaine Stritch, it's Marin Mazzie, it's like, Joanna Gleason and Chip Zien and John McMartin, and all of these people, including several like legends who are no longer with us now, doing, and I just named, it was Audra, and they're just, I'm naming like a fifth of them. It was like so many incredible people. And so I had like a couple days where my job was to basically be Patti LuPone's PA, and Lonnie trusted me to do that because he knew me, and I just got to like observe this incredible production and all that happened, and I have so many memories from that little moment, which again was like right on the cusp of me really becoming like a theater professional full time. So I think one of my like coolest moments like that was definitely threaded through Lonnie, and I'm really grateful that I got to meet him that day and that all those things have happened since. There are so many of Joe's shows that I am dying to get seen by a wider audience, but I am so excited about the Hunter S. Thompson musical, which has been in development for many years with La Jolla Playhouse, and which Joe's material for is just otherworldly. Like, I actually feel like I've lifted out of my body and I'm on another planet listening to some of it. It's such an incredible capture of the life of Hunter S. Thompson, but also all of these things about his life that are so relevant to the moments that we're living in right now. There's a song called Song of the Brown Buffalo that George Salazar sang in Two Player Game, the concert that we did at 54 Below, that just every time I see it or hear it, you're just like, how does somebody write that? Like, how did my best friend write that? So at the moment, I'm going to say the Hunter S. Thompson musical, I'm really excited for that to be seen in a major way in its first premiere actual production, hopefully soon, and then someday on Broadway. I love this question because I don't know that I've ever really been asked it before. Thoroughly Modern Millie is a favorite show of mine. It's a show that I saw when I was in high school and came to New York for the second time ever and was just so obsessed with that musical. And I think that staring at the key art since then has really been impactful because it so captures the joy and the energy of that show. The Thoroughly Modern Millie key art could have been, Art Deco and flappers and like busy 1920s New York scene, but it's just Millie. And as someone who sat in her apartment in quarantine for many months, I've had months to look at that and go, that really captures one of my favorite musicals. And I love about it that it's that thing on show Window Cart where obviously it's not Sutton Foster, it's not, the performer, it's someone who had to stand in for the key art, but whoever that is really captures the spirit. So bravo, Window Cart art lady, bravo. I have been super hard at work on the Untold Stories of Broadway Volume 4, as mentioned. I am so thrilled that it's going to come out in the next few months. The book is something that I have been working on for 4 years. My first volume of Untold Stories came out in 2013, really fast. The next one came out the very next year, 2014. The next one came out in 2016. And now it's been 4 years of having taken more time to really think about how to write the fourth volume, to think about what it means to be writing about theater during a time when theater is shut down, to really figure out how to amplify some new voices that haven't been in previous volumes. I'm just so excited for people to read it because I've been working on it for so long, and so many people have been helping me work on it for so long. And so that will come out in the beginning of 2021. Wow, it's crazy to say 2021, isn't it? But yeah, that's one thing I've been working on during quarantine. And I'm excited to share other things that I've been working on soon too. You know, I think that you should go to school for something that you're very interested in. You should go somewhere that's going to enrich you, where you're going to learn things you want to learn. For me, that was going to NYU and having kind of New York City as my campus. That said, you know, there's no way to major in what I do now. So I majored in something that allowed me, I majored in dramatic writing at Tisch, which really allowed me to have some freedom to kind of like shape my education around what I wanted to learn. I ended up producing a lot of stuff on my own on campus, having internships, really using the city as my campus to like take notes on shows during previews and like run around learning, you know, giving myself books, assigning myself books to read and shows to see. So much of my education at NYU was really about like teaching myself at the same time. And I think that no matter whether you go to school for theater or not, it's very possible to be a success in theater. I also always remind people that Tony Kushner has a degree in directing and George C. Wolfe has a degree in playwriting, just because they are amazing collaborators who did the opposite things on the shows that they worked on together. So I don't think your major needs to define you. I don't think that it's something that will declare the whole rest of your life and means that you can't pursue something else. But you should pick what you want to learn with the thing in mind that college is extremely valuable time-wise and obviously a huge financial investment in your future. So pick something that is going to make you grow and make you better, and go somewhere that's going to make you grow and make you better. You know, the best advice, the real true best advice, is to find your tribe. It's to find the group of people that you want to collaborate with and connect with, and to stick with them and figure out how to grow with them. You know, so much of my career in New York City in theater so far has been about the family of artists that I have formed with Joe Iconis family, and how Joe has kind of led this group of people who are actors and musicians and writers and people of all different trades in the theater through all of these years where, you know, we were performing in barns and basements and out of town and on like small projects and albums and then productions. And last year was very much like a pinnacle moment where we got to do a Broadway show and an off-Broadway show and a show out of town all in one year. But there will be years where we probably do a lot less than that. There hopefully will be years where we do more than that. It's an ongoing thing where I am so grateful that I met that group of people and that it's grown the way it has. I think that's really the most remarkable thing about it is, you know, when I started working with Joe in 2009 on Things to Ruin, go check out the cast album, the family was something that was like a collective of artists who wanted to, you know, work on these things and achieve these goals together, but it was a very small group, and over the years it's gotten like huge. You know, there's so many people we work with, and every project new people come into the fold. So you know, it's so important to have mentors and to you know, meet people of different generations, and no one more than me has like, you know, felt the value over the years of you know, going back and judging Florida thespians and then, you know, interviewing someone in their 90s. The generations of theater are so vital. But at the same time, I think my best advice is always like to find the people that are generally in your generation, that are your peers, that are the people that you're gonna meet today and really like admire. And then 6 years from now go, oh, that person is right for that job that is on this project that I'm doing. Or, oh my God, I have this idea and that person should talk to me about it. So that's really like, that's at the root of most success in theater is, you know, connecting with your people. Thank you so much for watching. You can follow me at Jen Ash Tep on Instagram and Twitter. Stay tuned for news on the release of the Untold Stories of Broadway Volume 4. Very excited to make some announcements about that soon. Watch the rest of this amazing series from Famous in New York and Shoshana Feinstein, and see you soon.